Hello everyone, welcome to Module 11, Writing Descriptors at Level B1 and B2 of the CEFR. By the end of this module, teachers will be able to understand the writing descriptors at Level B1 and B2 of the CEFR, then apply this knowledge to assess the students' writing, to see whether their students can reach Level B1 or B2 in their writing skills. Let's start with the easier level first, B1. With written interaction, we have 6 descriptor statements in total. You can see there are descriptors for higher B1 and lower B1 in each category. Generally, learners at level B1 can express both information and ideas, that is, their opinions, not just factual personal details anymore. And the scope, they can write about both abstract and concrete topics. In terms of letters and notes, they can write about almost anything that is related to them, even with an emphasis on important points. More specifically, in writing correspondence, learners can write many kinds of letters, ranging from more simple ones, which are to describe feelings, events, experiences, to more difficult ones, such as to give news, express thoughts about cultural topics such as music and films. With notes, messages, and forms, learners at B1 can both write a note to others or, a bit more difficult, receive a message from someone else. When someone calls in, a B1 learner can receive messages in which the caller asks a question or describes a problem. Or when they need to leave a note to others, they can write everyday notes to people around them, such as friends, service people, teachers, neighbors, co-workers, and so on. And they are able to express important points in their notes. Here is an example of an email at level B1. Take a look. You see, this is like an email someone writes to his or her pen friend for the first time. The writer can introduce herself, provide some information like her name, her age, her family, her house, her school, her friends, and her hobby. The language is simple, but there is a very clear connection between sentences and very good organization of paragraphs as well, right? This is another example of email writing. It's an email written to a friend, I guess. Maria has recently moved to a new town and she writes to tell her friend Helen about her new life. The sentences are mostly simple, connected by and, but, so, but also at the moment, anyway. The word choice is also simple but effective. The email has very good structure as well, divided in paragraphs. Here are 2 examples of notes that learners at B1 level can write. Look at the examples and pay attention to the content and the language in the notes. The messages in the notes are very clear and straightforward. The first note, you can guess, maybe it's written to a close friend or a neighbor. The writer wants to invite Sally over to his or her house to enjoy some fruit juice that he or she makes from a newly bought blender. The second note is between Liam and perhaps his friend or colleague, James. Liam thanks James for the party that James organized and suggests meeting again. Both notes use simple language. The sentence structures are typical of note writing, short, and sometimes a subject can be missing. Vocabulary is basic words that are used often in everyday life. So, these are examples that tell you what interactive writing at B1 is like. We move on to written production now. What are the keywords in this overall descriptor? Yes, they are straightforward connected text, a range of familiar subjects, discrete elements, linear sequence. With this descriptor, can you guess what type of writing can be produced by B1 learners? Can they write an essay or a report yet? The answer is yes, they can, because you see connected text linking elements into a sequence. This means learners at B1 can write about more topics, develop their ideas on these topics, and even organize their points in a logical way. However, notice the quality adjectives such as straightforward, familiar, shorter, linear. A linear sequence means ideas and thoughts follow one another directly. Let's look at specific descriptors for the subskills. Take a look at descriptors for creative writing. We have 4 descriptors here. A learner at level B1 can write descriptions telling about his experiences, his feelings, and reactions to different situations. Or he can describe an event, such as a trip or an excursion he just made. He can also tell a story. Look at the example about a story narrated by a B1 learner. What do you think about the story? It's good, isn't it? Simple as it is, it has a very clear structure and perfect development. The writer starts by describing the setting of the story, develops the events in the story with actions and feelings. He or she manages to create a tension and then resolves it at the end. The story even has a title. What about reports and essays? We don't have this category for levels A1 and A2 if you remember. But with B1, there are 3 descriptors. 2 of them are for reports and 1 is for essay. A strong B1 learner can write a short, simple essay or a report to summarize and state his or her opinion about factual information on familiar matters. While an average B1 can only write reports with a standard familiar format. Notice that strong B1 learners can express their opinion about matters, even non-routine matters, but a typical B1 learner is only expected to describe routine factual information and reasons in a report. Routine matters are activities that happen on a daily basis, while non-routine are those that happen once in a while. Examples of the types of report that learners at this level can write include a book report, if you assign your students a book to read, or it can be a book they freely choose and then they will write a report about that book. It can be a report about a project or an assignment that students do in a group, and so they need to report regularly to the teacher about their progress. Or when the project has been finished, a final report of the whole implementation process, or a report about findings and results of the project. Now, please read this example of a book report. The report follows a structure given by the teacher, that is a title, type of book, author, main characters, names, and description, what the story is about, and why the student likes it. This book report example uses familiar vocabulary, a range of sentence structures, simple and effective connectors, and has a very clear organization. Here is another kind of report, a report about survey's findings. You can see this is an example of a strong B1 writing. The writer can use a range of grammar structures correctly, such as reduced passive voice, relative clause, and sometimes complex sentences. He's also able to use a lot of academic words and phrases, such as preferred leisure activity, assume, co-curricular societies, uniformed bodies, parental factors, excessive amount, academic work, obsession, tuition classes. In addition, the report is organized coherently, even though the writer doesn't use many connectors between sentences. The last example is an essay that compares between experience that the student had at school and that at university. The structures are mostly simple, but the writer can use more varied structures, such as the worst I ever made, the days were much more exhausting for me than for my mates, the atmosphere was so warm and familiar that I didn't feel tired. It won't be in that moment that I have to start to live in the real world, in which I have to start fighting for my rights. The best part of this essay is vocabulary. Even though there are mistakes here and there, you can find some very good expressions, such as diligence and enthusiasm, companions, magical atmosphere of warmth and serenity, challenging timetable, live such a sheltered life, feel nostalgia, protected environment. It shows that the student has a level of confidence and flexibility in expressing his feelings and opinions. So, we have looked at several examples of writing at level B1. Do you enjoy reading these examples? Do you think your students can write like this yet? Let's look at a summary of language features of level B1. B1 learners can use his language rather confidently to describe a number of things, such as events, experiences, feelings, people and places, dreams, hopes and ambitions. They can show their opinion as well. With grammar, notice that they can already use second and third conditionals. They can even use modals for deduction, such as in sentences like, "He must live near here because he comes to work on foot," or "It can't be a burglar, all the doors and windows are locked." B1 learners could also use modals in the past, like should have done, or reported speech in different tenses and passive voice. In terms of discourse markers, they can connect sentences using words expressing cause and effect, contrast, sequence, etc. With vocabulary, they have gained a sense of using words in collocations and colloquial language. That means they can distinguish the level of formality of different words and when to use them appropriately, whether a certain expression is more suitable for speaking than for writing. The last is topics. Notice that B1 learners can write about difficult cultural topics such as literature, news, lifestyles, and current affairs. So teachers don't have to limit their topics to personal questions anymore. So we're coming to the end of this video lecture about level B1. Please try to remember the keywords in descriptors of this level. What do we have for creative writing again? Straightforward, detailed descriptions, a range of familiar subjects, experiences, feelings, simple connected text, describe an event, narrate a story. For reports and essays, we have short, simple essay, opinion, factual information, routine and non-routine matters, standard, conventionalized format. That's all for now. Goodbye and see you in the next mini lecture.